Yeah.
So I think if you think about it, it's really about college is a thing, but think about most things that you and I do, Jim. It's like, it's about the outcome. Nobody wants college. They want what college can give you. Nobody wants a job. They want a job. What can it provide? Is it stability? Is it financial success? Is it camaraderie? And does it fulfill me? And like, I think people just deal and work with I have to do it because. And I was like, what happens if you don't? Is that the only way to do things? And that's where the fun comes and people start realizing what they can do and what's possible.
This is the Mostly Middle Tennessee Business Podcast, a podcast about Middle Tennessee business owners and professionals. Mostly.
Certainly is. So I guess it would kind of be one way to kind of get this thing going is to say that you're not a fan of butts.
The ones with one T, right? Got to clarify that because, if you search but with two T's, you're on your own.
That's a different kind of search topic for sure. Well, there you go. This is the Mostly Middle Tennessee Business Podcast. I am Jim McCarthy, and I got to thank my good buddy Matt Wilson for the voiceover for that. He's got a great podcast too called the Mostly Marketing Podcast. And whenever he gets around to putting an episode out, it's really cool because he does a great job. He just needs to do it more often. Can't really do one episode a month or even every 2 months. Of course, this is also brought to you by, it's from the Christian Brothers of Spring Hill Automotive Studios and powered by Muletown Bikes down there in Columbia on the square. Go see Vinny. If you're interested in e-bikes and all sorts of really cool bikes that you want to get your exercise on, which I've been doing. Have you gotten into the e-bike thing? I ask everybody.
Actually, I tried it once. I was up in the Adirondacks with a friend and they were like, hey, we just got these new e-bikes. Do you want to try them? And I was like, you go first. Yeah. So I saw them and they didn't fall off. And it was pretty wild. You can go pretty fast and I liked it. And plus, I want to see a guy named Vinny in Columbia because I'm from New Jersey. So I always know a guy named Vinny.
He's Brazilian.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's from Brazil and he's got a little bit of an accent, but Vinny Tavares. Mm-hmm. He sounds like he could be from Jersey.
He knows a guy?
Maybe he knows a guy. Forget about it. But you're one of the people similar to me. You said that you moved here in 2009.
It's true.
And a lot of what I've been seeing when we moved here in 2005, the street they actually put us on where we bought a house was known as the New Jersey Turnpike because of all the Saturn people that moved down. The people that worked for GM up in New Jersey, I guess at one point moved to Spring Hill for the Spring Hill plant. Mm-hmm. So I ended up coming from Vegas started out in Connecticut, went to Vegas. We ended up moving here. And, I'm thinking I'm going to be around, a bunch of Tennesseans, Southern comfort, dare I say, or Southern hospitality. And, they're like, oh, you're surrounded by people from New Jersey. I'm going, that's not what I wanted at all.
Yeah, well.
No offense, but,
No, I actually, remember, I left New Jersey. So, I was, and I didn't move to North Carolina because I knew that a lot of people from New Jersey moved to North Carolina. They didn't move to Tennessee. So sometimes you grow up with people and you enjoy spending time with them. And then sometimes it's good to have some separation.
Do you find that when they find out that you've moved down here, that they follow suit?
Oh, no. No, they were the ones that... And I talk about this a lot when people ask me, they're like, what happens when your friends and the closest people in your life say you're crazy for doing something that they wouldn't do? And I was like, well, I'm not them. So leaving New Jersey was something that some of my friends and family are still there, paying high taxes, enjoying 2-3 feet of snow sometimes.
And we're catching up.
Slowly, but it took a while.
Yeah, we're certainly nowhere near New Jersey. But
so, it's sometimes people don't see what you see. And then when you do it, I never look back.
Well, I guess a lot of people said, but at that point.
I still say, but.
Do you?
Every once in a while, Jim.
It's a little bit of, it's almost like a little speed bump, verbal speed bump. And that is your thing. So a lot of what you're talking about is, but to unstuck and unstoppable. My guest sitting across from me, if in case you're wondering, is a gentleman named Marc A. Wolfe. And you're basically in the business coaching space on some aspect, on a pretty significant aspect in terms of helping, I would imagine, mindset.
Most of the things happen because of what you think.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know it sounds obvious, but it's amazing how people that are highly successful, actually crushing it at business, inside large companies, enterprises you would go to, still have what's called the imposter syndrome because they're like, oh, there's these things you don't know about me. And we're not talking nefarious, illegal things. They're just like, well, I didn't go the traditional route to get here.
Right.
So, yeah, there's a lot of people that still have yeah buts because of what other people think and what you think about yourself.
What do they think is the traditional route? Like, is there a tried and true route to kind of go about how they get to, what do they typically think it is?
Well, you got the wrong guy to ask because I was the guy that got kicked out of school in fourth grade at 9 years old for being disruptive, but because people would come over and ask me questions and I would answer them, the other students' questions, and the teacher would kick me out because I was a disruption, even though I was helping.
Were you in Catholic school?
No, I actually got kicked out of public school in New Jersey.
Oh.
In the 70s, and went to Catholic school because after you get kicked out of public school,
that's the last place.
So when you talk about
the last resort,
when you talk about traditional, people aspire to be, well, they have an MBA or they went to the school or they did this thing. So that's what makes you a leader. And whatever you're missing, that's what the people are like, oh, I don't have that.
I'm hearing a lot like from people who hire and other business owners that the kids in high school and even some teachers that I've had on, Greg Savelik, if you listen to that one, I believe we talked about on that episode how your most hireable, your best kids that you're going to hire, the ones that the class and the grading and the testing does not come easy, but they show up to try. And they walk up to the desk and ask, hey, how do I go about changing this grade or how do I improve it? They at least challenge the teacher and the paradigm that they think they're in to improve themselves, either on paper or, arguing some of the content that was in the test. Well, are you sure? Maybe this is subjective. He actually has the right attitude. He says, I will talk to them all day long and give them the benefit of the doubt because they actually marched up and had the courage to do that. And, he was one of the guys that in one of my kids, one of my kids had him for a teacher, and he stood out to me so much that I'm like, dude, you got to come on my podcast. You're my kind of teacher and you're teaching the right thing. Because he says, look, if your kid's used to having it easy, they're going to have a challenge here. If that's that, and it's like, there's a reason, let them, and he tells the parents, he says, let them fail. Let them fail. It's okay.
Wow. We can have a whole conversation just about that but let's look at adults, right? So kids still understanding who they are, trying to figure things out, social pressure. But imagine as an adult, you don't ask why. You just go along with whatever's done. You never push back because you don't like confrontation. Or you look at it and say, well, I haven't earned the right to be able to do that. What you're talking about is the difference between fixed mindset and growth mindset. And growth mindset is, this didn't work. How do I improve it? What opportunities do I have to do this different? What can I change? What can I learn from this situation? And I'll take you a real practical example. If I go to a movie, remember when you used to go to the movies? Right?
I only go on special occasions now.
But when you go and the movie's horrible, I like to think, and I'll stay through the whole thing. I'll be like, what got me here? Was it the marketing? Was it peer pressure? Was it my wife saying we should go to this movie because it would? And I always like to try to analyze and figure out, well, how did I get to this decision point? If you start thinking about that, even with school or with work, you're like, how did we get here? What's a different way to approach this? And someone who wants to actually have that conversation with you, that's how you build leadership. It's the conversation. It's the discourse. It's the not just accepting it, but also not just asking questions to ask them, but to actually go deeper with what the question and answer is.
Do you see yourself as a leader?
I think everyone has the opportunity to lead others, even when you don't see it. So yes, anybody that actually is seen and you're not working where you don't want to be seen, actually has the opportunity to lead others because people actually aspire to do certain things that you do that they don't. Or they see you and they're like, how do you go and talk in front of a group of people? Doesn't that scare you? I was like, you know what scares me more? Working a W-2 job and having somebody's whole ability to keep me around in the quarterly earnings. That scares me more. How do you do that?
Well, nobody really. I have that same. I make that same point all the time that you're taking a giant risk by having one income stream. Now the thing is, not everybody can do that. We still need people to work for these businesses. Because otherwise everybody be self-employed. That's the other kind of conundrum. I hear a lot of that being like talked about. Like, I think we're living in the world of a multipreneur universe, if you will. We're kind of getting into that age because you have to be, because the jobs aren't paying what they used to. So people have to find ways to side hustle and things of that nature. But not everybody's cut out for it. It's tough.
I am Vinny Tavares. I'm the owner of Milltown Bikes, right in the heart of Columbia, Tennessee, on the square. And we're here to serve the community. We have bicycles from kids to adults, e-bikes, mountain bikes, road bikes. We run a repair shop. So I am the third generation of this current bike shop. It's been here since the 70s. It's a historical building. It's an integral part of the downtown community in Columbia. We got customers here coming in and talking that they got their very first bike here. So the reception has been great. Everybody's been super friendly, super welcoming. A lot of the old customers that been coming here for generations now still come here. They're now my customers, and I have a huge responsibility to continue to carry that legacy and that passion forward.
Hi, I'm Jason Miller. I'm the owner of Christian Brothers Automotive here in Spring Hill, Tennessee. We fix cars here, both European and domestic, from simple oil changes to complete engine rebuilds and replacements. Most important thing, though, is while you're waiting, we've got the best snack game in town, and we invite you to make yourself at home and get to know us, and we treat you like family. We're located right across the street from Walmart on Highway 31 right here in Spring Hill. Let us know that you heard about us on this ad, and we'll give you 10% off your next oil change. So stop on in and see us in downtown Spring Hill. Do we even have a downtown in Spring Hill?
I've owned my own business since I was 16.
Right.
Why? Because my parents got divorced when I was 7, and we were on food stamps and welfare because my mom was the sole breadwinner, and there wasn't much bread.
Yeah.
So I learned at that young age to be like, I'm not going to let a job define me, so I'm going to start my own. I'm not going to be overweight because my parents were overweight. I don't want that burden, and I don't want to smoke. Now, I'm not judging other people that have those issues, but I just knew for me, I used it to empower me. So I've always worked and had only a W-2 job for 4 years out of my whole life.
What'd you do?
When I did have a job, I worked in pre-print. So before magazines are done, there was these print presses and other pre-press it's called. And I worked in production because I used to play on the Macintosh back when it was a little teeny screen.
Yeah.
And there was a laser writer and there was AOL on floppy disks and stuff. I know I sound like I'm 100, right? And there was
I remember that.
Of course you do, but other people are like, what are you talking about, right?
Yeah.
But so when you see things differently, it goes back to your earlier point, which was like, I could look at it and go, that's just the way things are. Mm-hmm. Or I can look and go, well, how about if there's something different? How about if I can have an angle? So when you talked about entrepreneurs, not everybody's an entrepreneur, but you don't have to know about business. You can invest in a business. You can actually support a business. You can collaborate. You can do things so many different ways to have multiple income streams. But maybe your job at different stage of your life is supposed to be different.
Yeah, I agree with that. Because I was a late bloomer with the entrepreneurial spirit thing. It was about 10 years ago that I embarked out on my own. But there was an entrepreneurial experience with the car business because I believe that's a lot. That's a difference. It is very entrepreneurial, believe it or not, but it's still entrepreneurial. You're still working for another organization, but essentially you're running your own company. You're just using somebody else's inventory, their systems, so on and so forth. But you can literally have a business inside of a business in that industry. But it's crazy. It's, a lot of people, it's not really taught or even brought up in school about the options of, kind of what makes the country great and your pursuit of happiness in terms of how you can define your life and pursue things that make you happy. I wish they did. I mean, I think it's being talked about a lot more these days. Thank God.
Well, a lot of things are being talked about a lot more, but here's the thing. When I talk to somebody and meet them for the first time, I don't ask them what they do. I ask them what they wish they would be doing. Because I think that's a better question. Almost like, if you hate your job, why are we going to talk about what you hate doing all the time? And then people think they're defined by that.
Yeah.
I have this job, so this is what I do, and this is all I can do. And I was like, so you never wanted to do? Oh, well, I did, but then I got married or had kids, and I was like, okay. And I'm not a therapist. I'm an executive coach. I talk about leadership. I talk about what's possible. But the more you have conversations with people, and people that you even know, Jim, that you're not interviewing, they tell you all the time what their problems are, but most people don't listen. So they don't push back and go, well, what are you going to do about that? And then I hear the yeah buts. And I heard them so many times, I was just like, we should probably write about this. This is a thing.
Yeah. What were some of the biggest buts that stood out? I mean, a lot of them are pretty common, I would think. What are like the top 3 common buts that you hear?
Yeah, but I don't have time. And I was like, well, you got the same 1,440 minutes that Warren Buffett has or anybody else has. So how does that work out? Yeah, but what if I fail? Right? So many people are concerned about how the optics of failure, how it looks. But we're in America. When you fail, it builds resilience. You're like, well, if you're a startup, if you haven't failed at least 2 times, you haven't tried hard enough. You fail in other countries, you're an outcast. Like, we have so many opportunities here to fail and still do well. And almost every product you touch today, from your iPhone, it was a Newton at one time and a PDA that was a massive failure that people don't even think about, that because they weren't born back then. But if there wasn't for failures, you wouldn't have built on these successes that you create. So, and then I think another but is, but what are others going to say or think, right? So people are really concerned about optics. So that's what I hear. If you can get past those, I mean, I have another 13 in the book. There's 16 total. But there's a lot of buts and a lot of stories about people who have overcome them.
We should make sure we bring that up, that you do have a book on your website, marcawolfe with an E.com. Your podcast is there. People can look into buying your book and downloading it, I assume. Yeah. A couple other resources. You could book a meeting with you, hire you to speak. You do conferences and things of that nature. What is, tell me about how you said you started at 16 with your own business. What business was it?
I was a freelance photographer. So nice. I took pictures of U.S. presidents. I took pictures of supermodels. I was on the field for the Giants and the Jets. I had an internship with the New York Giants. I'm like thinking, okay, is he joking right now? Because it's like at 16 you were doing that? So that was in college, but I started my business, so I was 18 when I actually did that. So it was 2 years later, but I started the business as a freelance photographer. And then as soon as I got into college, I leveraged my relationships, because I'm a girl dad. So I taught my 25 and 27-year-old daughters, don't be the smartest person in the room. Be the one that's likable and interested. Just learn to talk to other people and find out about them, because the smartest person in the room usually works for somebody like me, because I want really smart people. But if you don't know how to communicate, and I did, and that's as a photographer, I was getting in. This was before 9/11, so you could get press passes and take pictures of beach volleyball at Karai and stuff like that in California. I was just unapologetic about asking, and I had a really great camera, and I was getting into all these amazing events.
And this was 16. What era? I don't want to guess your age.
No, 57. No, I'm unapologetic. Yeah, I was born in 68. This was in the 90s, right? So it was late 80s.
Right.
And I was doing this, and President Bush was running, and he was at our school. But then I got dignitaries like even Al Gore, right? When he was a senator, I was at events, and I was able to take pictures, and they were using them for newspapers, things like that. But I think I had the same opportunity as so many other people, but I was unabashedly, unexpectedly being like, hey, can I help with that? And they were like, yep. And then they paid me to do that. I think still opportunities exist today exactly like that people are afraid to ask.
It's mind-boggling, because I hear what you're saying. It's something I tell my kids too. I said, what's the common answer to an unasked question? No. I said, yeah, or you're just not going to know the answer. You got to ask. I said, that's again, what the car business taught me is I'd probably ask for the sale 4 or 5 times in an interaction, but I mean, that's how I got a lot of, to your point, a lot of different business that I've gotten is just reaching out and suggesting or asking. you know?
We build limitations that other people have based on our own limitations. So I know people that sell high-end goods and sell high-end consulting and things, like money that would boggle your mind. You're like, people pay for that. They're like, well, yeah, because the value is a multiplier of that. And people don't limit it based on what you want to spend. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the same thing with opportunities. It's like, why would you pick a guy at a college that's taking marketing to go and have an internship with the Giants when he's not taking sports? Well, because I knew somebody and they were like, hey, would you like to do this? Mm-hmm. Yes. They could have said the Cleveland Browns. I would have said yes. I was just like, it's a professional football team. You know what I'm going to learn?
Yeah. Well, not only that, it's definitely a feather in your cap. And, you know, were you a big sports guy? Did you watch? Were you a fan of the Jets or the Giants growing up?
I mean,
no?
I just knew of them, but I wasn't a huge sports guy. Right. I did it because it was an opportunity to go and sit with Phil Simms and go, and Lawrence Taylor was there. And I mean, you were there. And I wish I would have been able to take a camera because pictures I would have had. It was mostly on the field that I was able to take pictures. But I was
That's so cool, man.
Yeah, I mean, I was having pizza and stuff. But the thing is that I think that was leveraging what I already had in college, which was learning the Macintosh. And that's because I was a photographer. So I played with the Macintosh and we would do layout for the newspaper, right? These humble beginnings, right? Mm-hmm. I wasn't a computer major. I never took a computer class or a programming class in my life. I just played with the computer. So people saw you doing something. Then they saw you with the camera. Then you were able to ask them questions. Then they were like, hey, you're really good. Why don't you do this? So sometimes people give you a trajectory and they're waiting for you to ask. Mm-hmm. And then if you don't, somebody else will take that opportunity.
Was that a natural proclivity for you? My
dad was a 5'2", 4-pack a day, blue collar worker. So obviously I looked up to him as my leadership model. One of his best attributes was there wasn't somebody he wouldn't know. Like he would go up to anybody and have a conversation with them. And I grew up watching my dad, even after my parents were divorced, having these conversations. And I was like, look at how he did that. And I mean, you look at his stature, you look at what's going on, and you're like, this isn't because he's a 6-foot tall suit wearing guy. He's just So I was like, I can do that. And what he taught me when I was young was to be confident and act like you belong. Now there's a big difference between fake it till you make it and be confident and act like you belong. When you act like you belong is because you know what the customs and the duties are to be in that place, what to wear, what to do. And I just adapted that and I was like, this might be a thing. Mm-hmm. So it plays off still to this day. It hasn't gone away.
That's similar to my dad.
Okay,
yeah,
tell me.
The same exact thing. You know, he was as my brother famously put it, that there were 3 ways of doing things for our dad. It was the right way, the wrong way, and his way. And he was one of these guys that would do unorthodox things that just made you go, that was so risky, or I wouldn't have thought of doing it that way, but here we are and it worked out, you know, and it was just odd. And it makes you at the time think you're nuts. But after some reflection, of course, he's been gone since 20 years now in September. I'm finding myself, my kids are now looking at me that way. Like my daughter just texting me before we started. She's like, I'm sitting here at the hostess station. No one's here. What should I do? I'm like, well, go start walking around and see who you can. That's scary. I said, it can be if you think of it that way, or you could think of someone seeing you do that and saying, hey, she's kind of, she's got a little bit of ambition. She's not afraid to explore, or, hey, there wasn't anybody here to greet me, so I'm just going to look for somebody to talk to and see what I need. Mm-hmm. I said, that sends a signal. And, she's still, they're in the mindset of, well, what does dad know? So until they hopefully realize that I actually maybe knew something.
Well, there's hope in that. So as you pull on that thread, I got mid-20 year olds, and they're both out of the house, and they're both paying their own. They have their cars were titled in their name now, and they pay their own cell phone bill, which is something most parents like. The kid's 40, you're still paying your own cell phone. And one of the things is when you kind of teach them and show them, and again, it doesn't matter what your age is, to be like, tell me what you're concerned about, what you're afraid of. What's the worst that can happen? Mm-hmm. You get embarrassed? Okay. Well, you're going to be embarrassed a lot in your life. Guess what? With things that you control and some things that you don't. Mm-hmm. So learn how to deal with embarrassment. And that's something that that's something on you and not on them, because other people probably aren't even paying attention to what that is.
Yeah, now you mention it. I remember kids kind of joshing me, cajoling me in high school because apparently I was very confident. There was like three kids that I hung out with. McCarthy with his confidence. I'm going,
of all the things to be slammed about, your confidence.
I said, you really want me to tell you the deep, dark thoughts that I have that aren't so confident? I mean, do I really need to go to college? I don't think I'm going to do good at this, and that was a big mistake for me. Growing up in the era we grew up in, especially in that part of the country, New Jersey, New York. I mean, I did a lot of work out of Westchester County, White Plains, about as white collar as it gets. And I was in a blue collar job. You either took the path laid out before you with college, the well-beaten path, or you did what I did and kind of carved your own. I'm glad I carved my own, but man, at the time it was, am I doing the right thing? And there's a lot of doubt, because at our time in that era, it was you either go to college or you fail. Was that kind of laid out to you as well? You remember that in like high school?
Yeah. So I went to a prep school because even though we were poor, the Catholic Church is really good about, they'll let you in sometimes. So I went to a prep school because my parents wouldn't let me go back to a public school in my town in New Jersey. They're like, they kicked you out, you're never going back. And I was like, okay. So I was already set to go to college, but we had no money. So my mom was working in food service at the college. And because she worked there, I got to go for free.
Right.
So college was laid out because that was the only college I applied to. I went to Fairleigh Dickinson University, which is actually a pretty good school. And it was because she worked there. So I went, didn't want to go, didn't care about college. I already had a business. I was already making money. I was running a business while I was in college full time.
I tell my kids, if you're going to go, know why you're going. You went. I don't know why I'm going. Because someone else is paying for it.
I had a marketing degree, and I still use some of the classes that I had and the mindset. Because why did I take marketing? Because I was like, a bad product marketed is seen much better than an amazing product nobody knows about. And I was like, oh, that's a thing. So even back then, I knew something has to be seen for somebody to even get and know it. And this was before social media. I mean, you and I, there might have been chat rooms in AOL, and that was the biggest thing on social media, which there wasn't. Yeah. So I think if you think about it, it's really about college is a thing, but think about most things that you and I do, Jim. It's like, it's about the outcome. Nobody wants college. They want what college can give you. Nobody wants a job. They want a job. What can it provide? Is it stability? Is it financial success? Is it camaraderie? And does it fulfill me? Like, I think people just deal and work with I have to do it because. And I was like, what happens if you don't? Is that the only way to do things? And that's where the fun comes, and people start realizing what they can do and what's possible.
And that's the thing, is showing them. Showing them that I just wish I think, like I said, we're doing a better job of getting in front of that. We're getting entrepreneurial centers and stuff like that in here in Williamson County, Entrepreneur Innovation Center, right? The EIC, I believe it's called. They're starting to really tap into that. But again, lagging in that trend as the typical schools do. I mean, the same guy, the Greg Savelic that I had on a few weeks ago, he was like telling me, or maybe it was somebody else that works at the school. Oh, we have a broadcast program. And I said, really? For radio? Yeah. I said, why? Why are you teaching broad radio? It's an industry that's careening into the side of a mountain right now. It's not a good business to teach kids to consider going into. Now, digital content creation, things of that nature, learning how to manipulate AI. That's a good way. We need to be teaching kids this, as well as getting in front of, there's the mindset of there are multiple paths you can take. I think we're doing, as a society, we're doing a much better job of that, But I mean, you still talk to people that are around our age or even younger who still have a myopic view of life and career and all that fun stuff.
I mean, think about some 30-year-olds. They're the millennials. They're in the workforce. They're the future leaders. And when I talk to them, I'm always asking their leader that's older than them in many cases, sometimes not. I was like, what's the succession plan? You got people that are working remote. Do you even really know them? Have you ever met them? Do you have offsites to get to know people? Because there's still this human need to be in person, at least every once in a while. We saw that with COVID, that even the people that are most introverted are still like, man, I just really crave actually having some friendship, companionship, some interaction with other humans. They need that at work. So if you have people who don't understand their purpose, don't understand what they're driven toward, don't know what a succession plan is, they just meander and they have lack of engagement. There's ways to solve that, which is when you start to ask people questions, you start to have conversations, you start to actually map out a path where you're like, hey, these are the options. And I did an event one time and I found that there was a very public company that will take you from when you start, and they're like, if you actually want to grow with this organization, we will take you step by step to that. So even if you want to be a developer and you started in sales, we can actually do that. And I was shocked that State Farm was a company that would actually do that. And I was like, huh. And then I heard other companies that were based in Atlanta and they were like, yeah, we hire for this reason, based on this degree, that you do this thing. And if you don't, we won't even hire you. And I was like, I wonder how that's going to go in the future.
Are you finding a lot more companies doing the first methodology? Is kind of,
yes. I see that there are people that now are skipping college and they're going to either taking a certificate program or they're going in, because what an organization normally wants is an outcome. Are you good for our culture, right? Do you fit with our organization? Do you know how to get output? Are you able to solve problems? Like the difference, like use your daughter's example. Am I stuck here because there's nobody here and then I leave because nobody was here? Or do I go and try to find an answer? And again, no judgment. It's just that people that try to find answers, that's what businesses want, not college degrees. College degrees 30, 40 years ago were a test that you could have sustainability and be able to do that. That's not the case anymore.
No. College became, it's advantageous for the banks. That's the way I look at it. Much like home ownership. But I have a very cynical view on those two things.
As long as we know the difference between opinions, right? We are allowed to have an opinion. We back them with facts and they work for certain people to go and say, this makes sense to me. And this is why I'm doing an alternative path. I don't believe there's one way to lay out for everybody. I think college is a great in the military and also associate degrees or not going to college. It really depends on this thought of what am I trying to accomplish? And most people, just like at jobs, are like, I just got laid off, they'll say. I need to get another job to replace that. And if they talk to me in that period, I'm like, so just doing the same thing again is what you want to do at this stage of your life?
No.
And they're like, well, I have to do something. I said, that wasn't the answer to the question. We know you do. What would that look like if you changed what you did? Well, I'd have to learn something new. I was like, how exciting could that be for you to learn something new like AI or understand what role it plays or understand how to make sure the connection between humans and the interaction of technology? What could that look like?
What are some of the yeah buts you have right now? Because you said you do have them. You help people overcome them. And it's similar to, I call it reading the label of the bottle somebody else is in.
It's easier to do that. That's fun.
Totally easy.
Oh, yeah. That's great.
I could totally see what you need to do.
Oh, yeah. And I do it all the time.
Yeah. Me too.
Yeah, it's great.
But when it comes to me, I'm like, ooh.
Yeah. Ooh. Yeah. Okay, Jim. Thanks.
I'm telling you, it's a real conversation. We just meander, man.
Yeah, no, I love this. So I think the biggest thing is, so I didn't want to write a book because I'm a speaker and I know that words like a text or an email can be misinterpreted. So imagine 202 pages, 40,000 words. You think somebody can misinterpret that? That was the biggest scare I ever had in my life. I was like, I don't want to do this. But when I did, I saw the impact it had, that people were like, hey, I'm going to write a book. And I was like, my book's not about writing books. They're like, well, the way you did it and how you did it on your own, that inspired me to do that. Okay. I've had other people like FBI agents and other people be like, hey, I'm going to start this thing because you actually made me think about why not doing it now is actually hurting people by not starting something.
Yeah.
So my yeah buts are starting to get hurdles that I'm leaving behind because I'm looking at them going, okay, well, if I'm going to live this out, I don't want to be a hypocrite. So I actually have to do things that are difficult. So in the book, I talk about how my yeah, but was, what are other people going to think? Me being a consultant, advisor, and an executive coach is different, because some executive coaches are just people that have worked at a company for a long time and they're like, hey, I'm going to be a coach. I was like, no, actually, I've always worked with executives at organizations. They've told me the things they won't tell you inside the organization because I was outside. I helped them fix that. Now I'm helping people with that knowledge. So my yeah buts are really more about why I'm not amplifying. And that's why I'm on the podcast and things like that, because I was like, I think the more people that know you and get to know who you truly are, the more they're like, I'd like to work with that person, or at least have a conversation.
Sales 101.
I'm like,
sell yourself.
This is who I am. I'm like, if you like who I am, if I'm not too intense for you, then maybe this will work. If I am too intense for you, talk to me anyhow, because I think you're hanging around people that aren't intense enough. And that's why you're where you're at, because somebody's not challenging you to be actually better than what you have been doing in the past. We always have to be challenged.
Well, I mean, a lot of, and you have the license, you have the clout to hang your shingle as a coach, as an executive coach. You've been there, you've seen it, you've got the runway behind you. From photography in the first business that you owned, tell me, just truncate the story. Tell me how you kind of came, and when did you make the leap to start doing the consulting and speaking, the personal brand, if you will?
Mm-hmm. So the photography, liked having a camera. This was, film all the way to digital, right? The transition I made. First of all, when you're dating in college, girls are really enamored with the dark room. So that was kind of cool to show people how a piece of white paper turned into, that's just magical.
I've done photography and videography. I've never experienced.
Oh my gosh. It was so wild to watch a piece of paper and the red bulb, and like you see on the movies and stuff, but be able to change it. Yeah. And I would bring people in to go and be able to show them. I'm like, look at this. They were like, this is amazing. I was like, yeah, I know. So I did that, but because I was in that, I started to play with the Macintosh, because that was the platform it was very limited. It was black and white screens and stuff like that. But when you think about it, it's like you have this pathway. So I became an early Apple dealer because I was playing with the computers, and I was like, well, I should probably sell these things. Again,
and they were taking on dealers at that time.
And I was like, so I was a value-added reseller. So some of my biggest clients were Becton Dickinson, BD, right? The ones that do the injectables, Tiffany's, CNBC. Because again, I'm the same guy. So when somebody said, oh, we have Macintoshes and we don't really get them supported because most of the world, 98% was PCs. So people would come to me and be like, hey, don't you work on the Macintoshes? And I was like, yeah. They're like, do you want to take them all? I was like, you're in a Fortune 500 company. They're like, well, we only have a few thousand compared to 10,000 other. Would you do this? And I was like, yes. And during college, I was actually working at night, working on people, because you couldn't do it during the day. This was when you had to take computers offline and work on them, and the internet was very slow.
Oh, yeah.
So went to work on the Macintoshes, which led me to start to travel. I was going to Bermuda, Bahamas. I was going because you had to fly to fix people's computers early on in the 90s and early 2000s.
That sounds horrible.
And then I went and then while you're spending time working on somebody's computer, they talk to you. If you're a human and you want to interact, and I was not a technologist, I was a human. So they would tell me about what was going on, and I was like, so hold on, you really want to do this in your company and do that? I was like, I could help you with that. And they were like, oh, talk to my boss. I was like, okay. So I talked to these C-level leaders, and they would be like, oh, well, can you do a talk on that? Can you help us with that? Can you strategize? I was like, okay. And it was a natural progression to understand consulting and technology was about humans. Yeah. Executive coach is about how to get humans to understand themselves and others. It was a natural marriage.
And getting back to the nerdiness of photography, I'm sorry, when you went from analog to digital, especially with the experience in analog, because I've never had that. Like if I had to do photography or videography, how they used to do it, like you were literally just getting all the settings in the camera and making your best educated guess in terms of how the shot would come out.
And then you wouldn't know what the pictures would look like.
Right.
So you got them developed. So just imagine how impatient people are now. So picture this. And I love that you brought that up. So as a kid, I had an Instamatic. My parents bought me an Instamatic and a Polaroid one-step, right? Where a picture would come out immediately. Yeah. And that was amazing, right? Yeah. And now, So I'd have a camera, I had a Canon AE1, and it was manual focus. So you'd have to wait till it lined up. Mm-hmm. And then you'd have to set the shutter speed, and you'd have to set the aperture. Mm-hmm. So you have to, all these things. Well, stuff's going on.
Yeah.
And you got to do this. So and when you're doing sports photography, you'd have to capture it. And then you have 24 or 36 pictures in a roll. Then you have to change the film. Then you have to go and get it developed. And if they screw it up, you lose all your pictures. Yeah. And when you go in the darkroom, you're the one that got screwed. You could screw it up or not. And so when you think about that, it sounds like I'm talking about horse and buggy. I mean, people are like, what?
But that's the art in it. That's the talent.
So it was fun because that's what we had. So it wasn't like there was options and I decided to go old school.
Right.
I was like, this was your option. So you looked at it and go, this is it. This is the cutting edge.
Yeah.
You do this. And then when digital came out, people were still learning about it. Pixels are really small. I mean, your phone now, the oldest phone you have was still better than some of our cameras.
Yeah.
But think about it. If you don't learn along that way, you're always going to be wanting something better. Gee, I wish this was faster. Gee, I wish this was. All we did is, it was amazing what we did because people were like, this is good. They didn't compare it onto what didn't exist.
Right.
So you could be amazing. Right. So you could be amazing at what you do at the moment because that's what's available.
What did you have a but when the digital camera came about? Because I remember getting the first digital camera. We lived in Vegas and we finally, I think we put it on a credit card. We had to finance it. And it was like, 1 megapixel or whatever. Mm-hmm. The viewing screen was maybe the size of 2 of my thumbnails put together. Yes. And I remember looking at it going, look how vivid that image is, not knowing any better. I wasn't into video at this time, but I did come up analog in radio production and audio production. So when I went to broadcast school, they were just getting into digital audio workstations by way of a software named SAW. And you had to make a special appointment to go in and use the SAW studio. Mm-hmm. And, as soon as I started getting the concept of SAW, it was kind of cool. But before that, I learned the basics and fundamentals on reel-to-reel with grease pencil and a razor blade, editing that way. And that helped me when I got my first radio job and I was interning and becoming part-time because the production guy, the full-time guy, got to use all the digital equipment where, I'll go do some tags. I would have to set up the reel-to-reel with the commercial, feed it in, run my tag, and voice it on the other reel-to-reel, fire it off in real time. Oh, dude, it was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of work.
Yeah,
and
it was very
manual,
cumbersome.
Yes,
but man, it was a lot of fun.
But that's what you did. So when you talk about digital and the transition, I try to relate it to anything today. It's funny how people resist some changes. And then some people embrace them. So for me, I had a digital camera before I had a professional DSLR. I had one of these ones that I got from some company, and it was just there was no screen to see. You just took a digital picture, connected it with a cable, and it would go into your Macintosh. Yeah. And then you would finally see it, and it was really low resolution, but it was digital. And I was like, oh. So it was amazing, the transition. And then I had analog lenses and they don't always work with DSLR. So you had to go and get new lenses and it's an event. Just think, fire outside when you have a fire pit and people were cooking to moving to the stove was a transition. And do you know there was resistance to that? Why would there be resistance from cooking on a campfire to cooking in your house?
I would imagine because it could catch your house on fire.
Well, they kept them as separate. I mean, when you think about the colonial times and earlier times, they had a separate house for that. But yes, but it was the lack of being around others. Because the campfire, we all cooked and we were together.
It was communal.
When you went and you did that and you cooked in the house, who was down there? Not everybody. There were people that did that. Or every time we have a transition, there's always somebody that's going to resist it because they're like, we still like it the old way because of this reason. We can still bridge that gap. Digital doesn't have to be bad.
Right.
It just has to be different and be like, okay, well, how do we still keep the craft in there? Right. And there's people that do that stuff.
Digital, you still had to have an eye. You still had that talent of knowing how to frame, which part of the subject and all that stuff, the lighting, how to set the setting. You still have to set the settings in the camera, even today. Now with, people that call, I think I heard this term years ago, photographers. where they take their phone and I'm going to hang a shingle and I'm a photographer. Well, no, you're not. You're taking it with your phone, dude. That's, you can, end results.
And that's the thing.
Feasibly make it happen.
When people look at what they want, the quality of food has diminished because people are willing to accept. The quality of education has changed. So what are we willing to accept? There's still concierge. There's still high-level service in every industry.
Yeah.
Why would people use a coach, right? Why would people read a book? Why wouldn't they just get a summary? Why wouldn't you just do it online? Every time somebody wants to do something in person, it's because there's supposed to be a human connection. When anybody asks me about technology, I was like, I'm doubling down on being in person. They're like, what do you mean? I was like, because you'll know I'm real. Because until avatars come out, until holographs come out, you're still going to know those people in the room are still people in the room.
Yeah.
So I was like, cut the edge where you're unsure, and then try to adjust it to do things that people still know is real. There's still a market for that in every industry.
I think there always will be. I think as we move into the AI age, there's going to be an element, and I keep on saying this, and I should just damn do it. Certified human. Mm-hmm. I think that's going to be a thing, because, the next generation, our kids, my kids, your kids, younger people, they're going to be one of the most cynical generations coming up. They're not going to know what's real, and you're not going to get anything by them. They're just going to doubt everything,
mm-hmm.
which is kind of not cool, man. That's my prediction. But, with that, I think ultimately there's going to be an edge. I've literally had phone calls with people, making them on behalf of somebody else. I come out of the gate saying, hey, I am not AI. I'm a real human being. And it's literally gets that kind of a response. You can hear on the other end, like they're smiling about it. I've gotten emails open by saying written by a human.
Yeah. I wrote my whole book as a human, and I wanted it to sound like me. And the reason it's not an audio book is because I want to read it instead of having AI read it, because when I want it to be the same voice that you get in person.
Yeah.
And the only reason I talk about my book at all is just because it's a really easy way to interact with somebody. I started a podcast not because I wanted to start a podcast, because it's a lot of work, as you know, right? Yeah. I mean, between the editing.
It's easy for me.
Yeah. Well, you have a team and you have other things to do. And but to edit it, to go and be able to do that and have it and then get audience, and there's a lot of work. But you know what I got out of that? Interactions with people that I normally wouldn't have had conversations with.
Exactly.
And I love that, because
who do you want to have on?
Well, I mean, I look at people, I meet them, and I was like, you got a great story. Mm-hmm. Do people know? And most people have never been on a podcast before. Yeah. And when I talked to them, I was like, okay, well, you got a great story. Am I the only one that sees this? And then they get on, they're like, this is pretty good. I was like, yeah,
it deepens your network.
Yes. But when you're sincere, though, like you are, like you really care about people, Jim. Like I know you do. I watched your episodes, and for you to spend this much time with somebody asking the kind of questions you do, you can tell how much you care.
And dude, I go in cold.
I know.
I do very little research on my topic, if you can't tell. And it's not to be insulting or offensive. I just like to find out at the moment, because I'd imagine there's a lot of people out there that are doing the same if they listen.
Right.
So,
right. Well, it's a risk, and people don't want to take risk, and you're willing to go and be like, I'll just show up and we'll do what we can here live, and you're going to get stuff that you could never plan. Things aren't supposed to be scripted. I don't like when I interview somebody and they're media trained, because they mention something 15 times like they're supposed to and everything. And I'm like, this is exhausting.
There's a time and place for very specific, regimented, segmented podcasts. Mm-hmm. Like we're going to answer, ask this question here and then, and then, they can package it up in 15, 20, 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. There's a time and place for that. There's some people that believe that, you have to, every podcast episode should be a certain time, but I'm like, sometimes the long form content still has a place. Mm-hmm. It really does. I mean, sometimes these conversations tend to carry out and play out for a reason, because you're searching, you're having a good conversation, and sometimes they go down rabbit holes that you'd never expect. You know what I mean? I mean, it's like one of the things I want to get to, especially on the speaking end of things, because we're in a world where there seems to be, personal branding, business gurus, things of that nature. A lot of people want to be business experts and gurus. And you've been doing this for some time. And I applaud you for that, because you waited to get the experience and the background and the clout in order to embark with real experience. I'm sure you see a lot of what Gary Vee would call hucksters out there that are trying to do the same and sell something that's like, well, hey, buy my course, or, you can come to this thing for X amount of dollars. I think there's a fatigue that's happening, and it's starting to build up. And you're a refreshing personality to kind of come out that resets that in a way that, look, before you start coaching people, you better have the experience. Before you start speaking, I've been in events where I'm surrounded by speakers, and I'm making air quotes. And all they want to do is what? Speak. And I got a door open with people leaking audio in here. So professional. With people that that want to speak, well, I'm a speaker. They'll tell me that. I say, oh, great. What's your big idea? It stumps them every time. What do you mean? I could speak on anything. I said, that's great. To me, you're a moon. Nice to look at, not much gravitational pull. Can't really build a community there. What's your planet? What's your big idea? What do you believe? Okay. Gary Vee, I'm a huge fan of Gary Vee. You know who he is. He's from your neck of the woods.
Wants to buy the Jets. Yeah.
He did not set out to be a speaker. His content and the things that he says, that the words that fall out of his mouth are what create the big idea. This is what I believe. And that's why he gets hired. My business partner's the same way. Absolutely reluctant to be social media savvy, doesn't care about personal branding, couldn't care about any of it. But is literally, we're doing an audio book as we speak, recording the whole thing. And his whole basis is that, look, one of our premises in our business is there is no crisis. And for a lot of entrepreneurs, small business owners, people who are embarking out on their own and trying to figure it out, they're living with, 3:30 in the morning, how am I going to make payroll, that kind of thing. And he's like, there needs to be somebody that speaks to that and shows that these small business owners, in the face of all these gurus and everybody that tells you this is the way to do it, and if you're not doing it my way, you're doing it the wrong way, so on and so forth. It's okay. It's supposed to be this way. It's messy,
But see, you brought up there's a lot in there that you said.
A lot to unpack. I go off on tangents.
No, I love it. And I'm tracking with you. So thank you for the compliment. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that I think about where, why me? Why would people hire me with my background or where I came from? Why wouldn't they hire somebody who's, sold 15 businesses and makes $10 million a year and do that? Because I'm authentic, I'm real, I'll push back, and I care. And that combination is good enough for people to go at some large companies to be like, hey, we want to work with you instead of the internal people or external people we have. So when you talk about speaking, I love instead of keynoting, and I didn't really want to get into that until somebody said to me, hey, you should be a keynote speaker. You're pretty confident. You got a lot of energy. And I was like, okay. And they're like, this is how much it pays. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, I'll do that. And when I did, I realized that being in front and giving a 50-minute talk on something seems like, no matter how interactive I made it, seems like a lecture. It reminded me of college. Here's me. I'm the expert. I'm talking at you. And I didn't like that as much. So I'll still do that. But what I really love is workshops. I really love being at the same level with everyone else and getting people in a room. And it doesn't matter how many, because I break people into groups. If you think about that, you know what you want to do and how you want to deliver your information. And I think people don't think about that. So you're like, oh, I'm so good, I should be able to have a course and be able to show other people. And I was like, well, can you really show them if they don't have the right desire? Yeah. There should be some vetting process, unless you're just a huckster being like, everybody can take my course and you can make as much money as I do. And I don't think that's integrity selling. Yeah. So I don't do that. And I want to teach people what I've learned, and I want to ask great questions. Is that scalable, like selling a course? I don't know. I sleep great at night, though, knowing that what I'm doing is what I care about. And when you talk about, when you ask a speaker, what is their gravitational pull? What do they really care about? I see people and I see perspectives that other people don't see about themselves. And I just ask simple questions. And when I do, people feel heard, and then we answer those questions. Like, that's what I do. And I want to scale that because I realize there's a lot of business owners that were put in business and are stuck at $5 million and can't get past 20 employees or can't be able to go and do that. And I'm like, how do we do this together? Like, how do I help you be able to leverage what you don't think you can leverage to be able to move that forward?
Well, I think, with the experience that you have at the age we're at, and from the part of the country where we're from, there's a no BS meter. There's a highly sensitive, a highly attuned, BS meter that we all are we've grown up with it, I think you could discern that. And when you're in front of, sure you've probably been a part of conferences where, are you listening to this guy? You know what I mean?
I try not to judge other people because it's easy to be the person. It's easy to be the person that judges everybody else. What I want to do is I want to understand, hey, if they're there and I don't see that they have this gravitas that I was, how did they get there? Like, I'm more curious than I am judgmental. So one of the yeah buts used to be, yeah, but what the heck? Why are they able to do this and I'm not? And now I'm like, hey, what can I learn from somebody doing something differently? Like even your long form, I was like, why wouldn't I go from 25 minutes? What would be an hour and a half? Well, you got to have enough of an audience because there's a trust factor to get there. So like, I love understanding how all this works.
Yeah.
Because to me, that's where the value is. Like I could talk to you about something and you would give me a straight answer. Not just because you're formerly from Connecticut. It's because you care so much about what you do. Even people that are from the South. And my wife's from Indiana. I intentionally didn't marry somebody from New Jersey. Midwesterner. So, and she always laughs at that. She's like, oh yeah, you needed somebody to ground you.
When did you get married?
30 years ago in April. So,
congratulations.
Yeah, 30
so
years
this
in
coming
a row.
April, 30.
It's
Good
30
for
years
you.
in a row. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, no breaks.
I'm 25 in September.
Yeah, congratulations.
We're almost close.
Yeah.
97. Look at that.
So when you think about
96.
it's real. It's one of those things that you're just like, how about having a conversation about things that you have to grow and do yourself? So you challenge me. You're like, what's your yeah buts?
Yeah.
Say it publicly.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, let's
because you do
it.
have them.
Right.
It's okay to like, that's the kind of thing that like get on a video and be like, just because I wrote a book about overcoming yeah buts doesn't mean I don't have them.
Right. But that's it with everybody, with each thing that we do, right? Which each thing, there's something when you're transparent and you're not trying to act like you know it all.
Yeah.
There's a beauty in that where people go, huh.
Oh, dude, it's so appealing.
I just think it's more authentic. So when you go back to what's the future going to be, there's going to be more people that are like, hey, you know what I like about you? I like that you actually talked about what your flaws were and not just how amazing you are. You're not just the Instagram, this is how things look. I was like, yeah, this is what's going on. The reason we have a marriage and the reason we lasted so long is because the way we grounded our relationship, the way we raised our kids. It's not a judgment on anybody else, but I know the direct relationship to why my business is where it's at, where I want it to be, and the gap and what my limiting beliefs are and why I'm not there yet. So anybody can have a conversation about anything. And I'm like, this is what I'm doing to work on it.
See, I guess that's what makes us different. I sit here and judge people. You know what I mean? It's
but it's working for you? Is it working for you?
I don't know. It's a Dr. Phil moment. How's that working out for you? Especially on LinkedIn. Oh my gosh. LinkedIn there's a reason why there's a Reddit thread called LinkedIn Lunatics.
There's a Reddit thread on everything.
Pretty much.
Come on.
But it's like some of these people, like, where are you guys coming up with this crap? I mean, who is somebody reading this dissertation posts that are like 2 and 3 pages long that are like freaking essays? And then it's, all you're doing, they're putting out content in a written form. And I get that. But then they put out, the comment sections are like a ton of engagement, but all the people that are seeking all the attention, all the residual, like the wake, if you will, drives me up a wall.
So why does that drive you? So why does that bother you so much?
Because I don't see it's real.
Okay, so let's say it's
fake.
not. Let's say it's fake. So why does that bother you so much? And again, I'm not doing it, but what I'm doing is
Hi. Recording? We're recording. And I have my door open. I'm sorry. This is live, baby. You need something? That's my business partner, John.
He came in wandering through the shop earlier. So
I didn't know.
Yeah.
That's my
He's the one that's writing the book right now, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, called What's that?
I guess I'm done writing.
Well, you're done writing the book. We're recording the book
Okay.
at the moment. We marked down that time. This is a first. This is so haphazard. It's so funny. Let's see. I don't say he interrupts. So posture that question again.
Okay, so you talked about LinkedIn and you talked about these long essays, and people do that a lot of times to get views because they want to get visibility because either they're selling a product or they want to be seen. So I don't do that. So I'm not supporting it, but I see you get so angry and it just bothers you about it. I got to pull on this thread.
Angry.
Okay.
But it makes me roll my
frustrated.
eyes really hard.
So what's the difference between that and one of those, hey, we know that the late night ads that the guy that's selling a car to you, that he screams works, or the long form when they're trying to get you to sign up for something where it's just, you keep scrolling and it's $4.97 because that's the price that works. Why is that any different?
Does your garage door sound like this? If it does, it's screaming for help. Call Incredible Doors, 931-348-DOOR. We're making garage doors in Murray and Williamson counties work better and sound better. We just make them incredible again. Go to IncredibleDoors.com or call 931-348-DOOR. Follow us on Facebook for specials on maintenance visits, keypads, and other items. 931-348-DOOR. IncredibleDoors.com. I don't know why that doesn't bother me, because in a way they're signaling to me that I feel their disingenuousness. As one who's actually done the screaming car dealer spots before,
I did not know you did, but I knew you sold cars. So I was like, but you,
I when I was in radio, I still do them to this day. It's called an automotive ad. But I was always a big fan of like shooting from the hip and leveling with people in ads too. But hey, if a client wants to, come on down, Bruce Bennett Nissan, in Reading, Connecticut. If that's the way they want it, that's the way they want it. But again, that is a marketing that is forced. It is not a permission-based marketing like a LinkedIn, like social media. You have to accept and, be open and willing to accept these messages, which of course I can go in and block these people too. But to me, it's the veneer, especially when they use words like authenticity and being vulnerable, but yet they're showing highly polished photographs of themselves in city parks reading their own book.
So what's the difference between that and real life?
Fake.
But it's so, and here's the thing, it's a metaphor for other things that happen in life. Mm-hmm. You happen to see it in LinkedIn.
Right.
We live in Middle Tennessee. There's a lot of things here that are veneers.
Totally.
There's a lot of things that are veneers in different parts of the country. Mm-hmm. There's veneers inside every socioeconomic group where people have to do a certain thing because that's the thing we do as people that were in this group. So you're going to get that everywhere. It's just interesting because you picked one thing.
It's because it's the juxtaposition and hypocrisy of the message. Okay. I'm real. I'm authentic. Okay. No, you're not.
But so people generate AI images and they're saying they're real too. So here's the thing. People are willing to do anything to be seen. And that's the underlying problem.
And here I am talking about it. Didn't mention their names, but
And you're getting to see it. So here's another thing I think is interesting. You're getting to see it because either you're connected to that person or somebody you're connected to commented, or you wouldn't normally see that in your feed. So some of the people that you're surrounded with are actually...
It's frustrating because why don't you just show me the real stuff? Stop trying, I always bring this up. There's a guy here locally who's a podcast expert, and he'll tell you how to go viral on Instagram or whatever. Do it like I did and how I continue to do it. That kind of messaging. But yet if you look into his posts, dude, these aren't viral. You bought these. I could see it. Who do you think you try? It's like, I get that there's a sucker born every minute. I understand that. I know you're appealing to a certain demographic that's hopeful and thinks that they can make money overnight and so on and so forth. That's fine. But at the same time, buddy, but who do you think you're fooling here, man? it's so obvious.
But they are fooling people, though.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. There's always an opportunity when you see something that's wrong or done differently than you're like, this is it made more difficult. I always look at that. When I talk to somebody, I'm always like, tell me about what's going on in your company that you think is ridiculous. And it's usually people that are not in management. They're like, why do we do this? Yeah. There's so much waste here and everything. And I was like, who else believes that in your company? And they're like, oh, well, I got this team and actually my boss believes it, but his boss's boss doesn't believe it. And I was like, how much do you think that's costing? Right. So I ask a bunch of questions. Then I go to the boss's boss and I'm like, do you mind if I go to the, and I was like, by the way, I'm not going to take any credit for this. I'm going to point it back to you. It's not about me. I was like, yeah, go ahead if you want to do that. I was like, okay. So I go to the boss and I'll be like, hey, by the way, do you know that there's these things that are here? And they're like, how'd you find this out? I was like, your people tell me, and they probably have told you, but here's the way, what they told me, and here's the piece that's missing, and here's how to fix it. Would you be interested in having a conversation? Because most people will either talk about the problem and point at it, or most people will ignore the problem, but very few people talk about the problem, put something together and go, here's how it gets done, and here's how it's already been done. You just didn't see it. Like there's an opportunity everywhere you see inauthenticity. There's an opportunity, like every time, that's a business opportunity that I see. I was like, if you hate this bad enough, be the antithesis of that.
Oh, yeah.
And then be able to go and be like, here's why this doesn't work. Yeah. And you don't even have to call them out. You're like, but I see that all the time where people are like, that's a lot of work. I was like, well, then just continue to complain about it. But that's probably shortening your life because. Well,
that's it shapes the narrative of what I put out there. Like I actually do post something. You'll never hear me say this. You'll never hear me talk to you about how to go viral because, dude, I have no idea. Some videos go, some of them don't. The ones that do, we study them, we break them down, we figure out what worked, what didn't. I said, but generally, 90% of the time, my videos get the same kind of numbers. The clips from the podcast, things like that. And I said, I just believe in the long game. I don't think there are certainly tweaks and stuff like that, but the notion of a overnight hack that will get you you could certainly buy them. And I've done that in the past. And I put it, I make it very well known that once upon a time I bought Instagram followers and it didn't work out. I think Instagram holds it against you. I'm pretty sure they do. The algorithms know. I have a friend of mine who she's like, have you seen all the numbers I'm getting on my posts? I go, yeah. I said, she's like, I'm getting like 515. I said, yeah, 515, 516, 517, sometimes 514 every single post. I said, but you have no comments and nobody's sharing it. Somebody's hacked into your account or it's some sort of a bot has gotten a hold of it. And they were like, well, they were thinking that was an achievement.
But that's because that's a vanity score. Here's the thing. You know what I care about? The same thing.
Sorry.
I care about the same thing that my dad taught me when I was young, which was, how is this translated into something you can live off of? I was like, it's either a resource, right? If somebody wants to give you a free trip somewhere to speak, right? That's a resource. If somebody wants to pay you to do something, that's a resource. Me having thousands of views on a podcast it gets me visibility, which is a dotted line that might get me the right clients. So I had somebody on my podcast and he has 860,000 followers.
Right.
Now, didn't know this guy, watched his YouTube channel, and my friend goes, hey, you should have him on your podcast. Okay. I don't know him. Do you know him? No, I watch it. He reaches out to him. He says, and he's in Arkansas. And he's like, I'll be on your podcast. I'm going to drive up to Nashville to be on your podcast. And I was like, oh, okay.
Cool.
He comes up, we go, he tells his backstory about how he was working in government, how he left, and how he started this YouTube channel and how so it was an amazing story. I got thousands of views, but they aren't my clients specifically because they're homeward workers and everything else. But it was nice to do that. So you can get views. It was a great story, but it's not my client. But I didn't do it just to build that. I did it because it was great to interview somebody who had an amazing story. So
I love that motivation.
I thought it was great. And I thought he loved it because he promoted it because he doesn't normally talk about his backstory.
Right.
So I think sometimes when you do good, right? And that's the bad part. So here's another but. The bad part about doing good is that I got 1,000 ideas. And I'm always like, hey, why don't you try this? And somebody's like, why don't you help me with my podcast? And or by being a co-host. And I was like, that's not really my thing. I don't want to be Ryan Seacrest unless you pay me like Ryan Seacrest gets paid to go and be so I was like, I just want to be a guy who does more of this business interaction that helps people lead better. And because of that, their people make more money, stay longer, more engaged. Like you can measure all the changes because we had conversations.
Right.
Like, how do we get there? I got to talk to more leaders, which means I got to talk to people's bosses or they have to be the boss. And talking to consumers sometimes gives me to where they're like, hey, you need to talk to this guy about this because he's going to retire and we're going to do succession planning. You need to help us with that. I was like, okay. So I think there's a lot of stuff that is not talked about, but when it's business and outcomes, man, I love having conversations about that. You want to talk to me about sports and SEC and stuff? You probably got the wrong guy. I'm not going to be really good at that.
Were those some of the co-hosting opportunities that people wanted you to look into, or more?
Yeah, there's people who want to talk about AI. I've been on AI podcasts. There's people who want to talk about authors and be on author podcasts. But I was like, I'm not going to be an author writing 15 books. I don't think. Like right. I wrote one. I got an idea for a second one just because my book's been out a year. But why? I'm only talking about the book because it has a shelf life, right? Oh. Literally and figuratively. People are trying to get me to do the podcast longer. They're like, hey, you really need to do this more. And I was like, for the amount of effort and what goes on, I'd rather be on podcasts than to have my own. It's a lot easier to show up, be here.
Oh, it's a lot easier being interviewed than doing the interview.
And even when you have to prep for them, but I promote it. I will tag people. Like I do my due diligence when I'm on a podcast because I was like, if you're going to be on it, own it. Like you should promote it. You should put in your reels, make sure people see it, make clips out of it. Like there's a responsibility that comes with that. That's still, but I was like, why do I do all this? Just because I think there's value in having conversations and more people knowing you. No matter, you've done almost 300 episodes, right, Jim? People still don't know you. There's still opportunity for people to be like,
totally.
Right? Like that's the thing. It's like a blue ocean. Mm-hmm. I want to go to Australia someday, right? And New Zealand. So I actually have somebody that I know that was an intern for me a long time ago. And hopefully she hears this. She bought my book and I wanted it to be in Australia. And I was like, hey, we should get me to speak because it's cooler when you come from another place. Like speaking in Nashville, you're from here.
Yeah.
But being shipped somewhere to be able to do that, so that's what I'm working on. I'm working on going to New Zealand.
And, make it a business expense.
Well, it's going to be because it's going to be a speaking engagement and I'll be working. So it's.
Well, that's the kind of thinking that is very innovative and not being done a lot. Well, hey, I want to go do this. How do I actually maximize the time instead of it? It could be a paid vacation.
I think everybody has that same opportunity to be able to do it. And one of the best ways to do it is when you own your own business, you have that flexibility. But I know people that have 3 weeks vacation and never take it.
No.
Why would you have 3 weeks of vacation? Oh, they can't live without me. I was like, that's a problem because if you think you made yourself so indispensable, either your company's not smart enough to realize that that's a danger to them, or you don't have a succession plan, so you have to stay there forever because you can't leave because the company will go out of business without you. Or I'm like, I see so many ways that this could be better for everybody if you actually take your vacation and see how they do when you're not there. Are they going to appreciate you more? Is there a way to be able to offload some of your work? I mean, does any of this go through your head? So
there's maybe the next book just needs to be called, Yeah, Duh. There's a lot of duh moments that we're kind of bringing up, and it comes along the territory of looking at somebody, the outside of somebody else's bottle, like we talked about, and seeing the obvious. Just today, I saw a Facebook post from a guy in radio who had been doing it 30 years of his life, 25 years of his life, and he's like, "I'm getting out." Essentially a post that I was asking, is there life after radio? I don't know what to do next. And it's like, well, depending if you want to keep on doing production and things of that nature, podcast, digital media, there's an absolute black hole of talent from the radio business needed in that area. And there's so many people that just in that business that I know that are like, well, the industry is kind of tossing me aside. I must not have value. And I tell people in that industry all the time is that no, just because your industry doesn't see you as valuable doesn't mean you're valueless. You are needed.
There's so much there, though. So can we spend a moment there?
Sure.
Like, I think, so here's the thing I see. People feel they become their jobs, right? Especially people that have been doing it for a long time. So it's hard to be your job when you're 30 because you haven't really done it that long most of the time. But the longer you are in a career, you're like, well, this is who I am, and they're tossing me aside. I was like, first of all, let them toss you aside. Mm-hmm. Did you learn new things? Were you always expanding? No, I did what they told me. Okay, well, that's on you. Mm-hmm. We should always be growing and looking at adjacent things to our industry, right? I mean, think about how the taxi industry was blindsided. They used to sell medallions for a huge 6 figures in New York to have a taxi that was yellow. Mm-hmm. And now you have people driving their personal cars. You're getting into strangers' cars with an app. And those taxis, I mean,
they're struggling.
People were doing couch surfing. I remember having an intern one time I'm like, hey, I'm in Austria. Couch surfing, I rented out my place. There was a website called couchsurfing.com mm-hmm. that wound up becoming what is now Airbnb. And So this was all a migration, but in the industry, the hotel industry, who would ever sleep at some stranger's house? Right. That'll never be a thing. Right. So when you think about like being in the music industry, or you think about it, it's like, what's adjacent to that? And if my skills, what can I be doing and teaching somebody that has nothing to do with just broadcast, but has these skills about what to do correctly? My plosives, and all these other little things that industry people know, and where to put a mic and stuff that I'm telling you, people still have no idea, and they watch YouTube videos to figure that out.
Yeah.
But imagine having somebody that could work through it. And that's just one example, but there's so much more to be like, well, there's an opportunity here, and all I have to do is be here. But if you don't retire to something and you just think you're thrown away, that's when you feel like your life isn't as valuable. And that's sad, because that's not a truth. That's a truth you told yourself, which is a yeah, but.
My yeah, but as of late, I'll be transparent. I do try to see opportunity, but sometimes you just can't see it. Sometimes I'm really good at it, especially when I got into my own thing 10 years ago, doing what I'm doing now. I saw opportunity everywhere. Like, oh, you need to do this, and I can help you with that. I would be asking all those questions. Lately, I'm like, I don't know, I got nothing. Sometimes the muse just isn't there.
Well, I mean, so if you're looking, the difference is looking for something is a start, but how about executing and running it to the ground that you actually propagate it and it moves forward? Like, there's no difference between starting something and being like, hey, I think I got a thing and I'm going to make it a thing. Yeah. Right. So I think we're at different stages, lots of different times in our life. And I want to stop starting things, and I want to start owning what I'm doing to the point where it produces more and it goes deeper than just lots of starts.
Do you feel like you're kind of like in a forest of half-cut trees? You start cutting one and you move on to the next one?
With other people, right? Yeah. Like I help other people see things. So that fills that void when I have a conversation. Like I'd sit down with you for half an hour and be like, okay, here's 5 things I think you told me during our talk. What about this, this, and this? I'm like, and I just have questions based on somebody's statements that makes me want to be like, did you ever think about this? You're like, actually, yeah. How did you know that? And I was like, well, because you said. So I just, in my head in real time, like if you had call in and we were going to do the whole, like, I can hear things from people from 3 sentences, ask them questions, and they literally go home and go like, wow. I was just like, and to me and you, it might be obvious. Like, how'd they not see it?
We know that it's not obvious though. To us, it is.
Right. But that's the curse of knowledge. When you see something, other people don't, you think everybody sees it. Right. And then you think, how could they not see it? I can't charge for that. I can't do this. And I'm like, there's still things that you and I or other people know as so visible, but other people still struggle with. And that's where we're supposed to share our knowledge in a way that's digestible. But there's got to be this other part. And this is the part that's the tougher part. Following up with somebody to go, okay, now we talked about this. What happens with what we talked about? Did you just go back to the way you were? Or do you really want this to happen? That's why as a coach, I have that ability not to just throw out a great idea, but to actually go and say, hey, we talked about prioritization and you have too many number 1 priorities and you're only supposed to have 1 because you can't do 10. what does that look like? And when can we discuss this? And what happens? And how does your family change or the dynamics of work change if you start doing that? And then you watch people's lives change and they come back and they post on LinkedIn and they're like, I had the best Christmas ever because I actually spent it with my family. My team is now getting my time. I'm not running for 15 boards and doing all this other stuff because I changed the way I do business. And I was like, all because we had a conversation. It wasn't just one. Yeah. It was continual.
And that's the, you look at, you use the word coach, which is it used to mean something, and now you can have 23-year-old life coaches. Mm-hmm. What a coach is to me is somebody who does that, comes alongside you on a regular basis and has almost like a doctor, has your charts and knows exactly where you are with this. But you get a lot of people that are actually trying to do, it's a big difference between a coach and a shot in the arm in terms of motivation.
Well, so that's not new that there's been people out there selling everything, right? I didn't want to become a coach in the beginning. So I was a consultant, and that was already a dirty word because people didn't like consultants. The big joke about consultants is a consultant will look at your watch and tell you what time it is, right? That was the joke about it being. So I didn't like that word, but at least it was respected. When I heard coaches, I was always like, oof. They could be ZZ woo-woo coaches where they're like, hey, I help you with your cats and your dogs. And I was like, okay, that's great. That's a thing. And then there's life coaches and everything else. I only wanted to work with business people.
Right.
I'm not a life coach, but I've never worked with anybody dead. So does that make me a life coach?
Sure.
No, but but see, there's different connotations about life coach. Life coach, well, they help you with your life. I was like, I help you with your business because most people I work with have a business or run a business. And that's where we start. Now, have I helped people run marathons that they used to run and get back to that? Yes. Have I ever run a marathon? Heck, no, not even a half marathon. I don't run. I don't have to have done that because I don't pitch myself as a running coach. What I do is I ask you questions, you tell me things, and then I go and say, well, what's the gap between that and this? And then we have a discussion. And next thing you know, people are happier because they started running again and they're happier at work. All I do is put together pieces, reflect back, and ask really good questions. Now, there's a lot of coaches that can do that. But what I did, and AI helped me understand this, I was like, how do I differentiate myself? And I was like, okay.
I was about to ask.
I was like, what makes me different? So I was like, AI, take everything I've done. So I went through and had a business since I was 16 and only been a W-2 for a little while. I went and was an Apple dealer. I went and wrote a book. I went and I was a consultant. So I put all the list in. And then I'm also ICF certified. So there's a coaching body where I'm certified. And I went this is my only income, right? I'm not driving for Uber. I'm not delivering pizzas. I was like, and then it narrowed down and it said I was in the top 6% of all the coaches. And I was like, because I was like validated. So I validated it against 2 LLMs. And I was like, look at who's out there. And the thing is that it made me, so that was for me because nobody asked me and goes, well, are you in the top 6%? I wanted to know how different I was. I thought I was different because my clients tell me, hey, I picked you and here's why. And I wouldn't normally have picked somebody who's so direct, but I'm glad I did. And then, so I hear these things. So I don't want everybody as a client. I don't want people to buy my book. What I want is the outcome that they want. What do you want? What happens if you don't deal with this issue at work? If you don't deal with this career decision? What happens? Because if it's not a big enough downside to it, watch a video, use AI. I'm totally cool with that. But if this is the interaction you want, then let's work on what that is. Let's put a time box on it to at least say, here's some milestones. And then let's see how it looks like if you start working on it and what changes. And I've had very few people have come to me and been like, this was horrible. They all come and be like, I can't believe I didn't do this sooner.
Well, it's again, getting back to the differentiation factor. That's what I was going to ask earlier is that what's your superpower? And that's, I don't care who you are. A lot of people struggle with that. My superpower is I don't believe anybody has the breadth of experience in podcasting that I do. I've been doing this pretty much since 1997 on a multitude of different levels, from voiceover, podcasting, a little bit of consulting and coaching in that realm. But, what's the one word you own, when it comes to coaching? What kind of coaching? I mean, and one of the best things to find that out is to take your 10 best clients. Hey, just want to check in with you, see how you're doing. Also, real key question. How would you describe what I do to a friend of yours? Mm-hmm. And like write down, listen to all the answers, and what's the common thread?
So I get a lot of introductions to people, not for coaching only, but they're like, hey, you need to talk to Marc because. And that's the best part. When I meet somebody and they're like, hey, I met Marc and he talked about X and I know you need to meet him. And most of the time those conversations are amazing because it all goes back to, I don't want just more business. I want really good, deep relationships.
You want
people.
Narrow and deep. Yeah.
And the crazy part, which surprised me the most, I thought you don't really build new relationships, first of all, in a new state, right? Like you did 16 years ago. I met some great people here that have better relationships with than the people I knew for decades before in another state. But the other thing is that in my 50s, I'm realizing that I'm actually building relationships because people are less encumbered in a way. And they're ready to go and at this stage of their life, be able to do things differently. So we'll have conversations. They're like, this is great. We should do this. We should go there. And all of a sudden you're hanging out like you're 20 again with people and around a common theme. So I think people are hungry for deeper relationships after COVID, more so than ever. People want authenticity. So what I hear is people like my passion and energy, right? That comes up a lot because I guess a lot of people aren't so externally. I'm verbally confident. I'm not afraid to say something. I'm not afraid to challenge but care. But I'm also about outcomes. Like I'm a capitalist. I'm an unapologetic capitalist. I love getting paid and I love helping people make more of what they want to make, which is usually money or freedom, right? Time away. And I do that all day long. So it's really easy when you know who you are, what you offer.
Yeah, and I guess people kind of come to their own conclusions on how to define you, especially when it's word of mouth. Because I mean that's probably what's helping you the most. But I mean, you're doing? I'm sure Instagram. I didn't look. I should have looked you up before this, but doing posts on a regular basis, that kind of thing, or
sporadic. So
when you're inspired.
I mean, on the podcast, I just had Devin Harris, who's the Olympic bobsledder from the Jamaican bobsled team. I met him 4 years ago and never met him in person. He was going to be in Memphis. So I actually drove to see him in Memphis like 2 months ago. Finally met in person after knowing him on the internet for 4 years. And I just had an interview with him because of the Olympics and stuff like that to talk about his upbringing and what's gone on and what he's overcome. But it's amazing when you get to talk to people. So that's most of my posts, right? Yeah. And that's just like you and I both realize there's certain people that will listen to full long form and most people will listen to clips.
Yeah.
Give me 30 seconds, 45 seconds. Dude,
now you got the 3 and 4 minute clips. That's another thing you got to freaking contend with.
So you give people what they want in the medium they want to, but I don't just want to entertain. I'm not an entertainer, right? I want something to change.
You want real. You want something. Yeah. You want real change. You want real, that's the kind of stuff, I guess, if it does piss me off, that's, don't piss on my leg and tell me it's raining. That's essentially what I'm getting upset with most of these, gurus and influencers. That's what bothers me. That's why it makes.
I get it. It's
like we're in a world that is so thirsty and hungry for true realness. There's so many business owners out there that feel inadequate enough as it is because it's lonely unless you have a partnership, a good one at that, one you can trust. All the things that go along with that. But if you're a solopreneur, if you're a lone CEO, dude, it's lonely.
It's lonely for CEOs, even that aren't and that have a company, right? It's lonely because people can't trust other people to talk to them. You can't talk to people inside your company because you feel like the people below you are going to see you as weak. The people that are adjacent to you want your job. There's a lot of other reasons where people won't do this. But when you get back to authenticity, like, I don't want you to watch a reel and go, that was nice. Like, this isn't a Saturday Night Live skit, right? It's not Nate Bargatze where I'm just going to laugh. That's good. He does a great job. He makes me laugh. I think it's funny, but that's his role, right? He's not trying to change you. He's trying to make you laugh. I don't want you to laugh. I want you to understand and then be able to do something. I want you to watch something. So here's my but. I have not created a course, not for how to make it rich, but I have not created something where people can go and be like, how do I get from here to there? Because I'm so used to doing it with somebody. I have to do it where they can do it on their own and do it with me and then do it for me. Right. And creating that course is really where I'm at. And I get people all the time from all these different countries that want to do this for me. Mm-hmm. And then I see their Gmail account and I look, or I see their website. And I was like, if you don't have a website, use AI to write this email. I'm not really looking for that. So that's my but.
Now you're going to send those to me so I can get upset about it because they're not real and authentic. Okay, Jim, gonna get your hackles up. Get ready. At least I'm. That's what I mean. Is like I know that's a flaw of mine that it drives me nuts. And I fully admit it.
I don't know if you could call it a flaw. I call it just there's something
quirk.
There's something that really bothers you. Like my wife doesn't like when people just park in front of the gas pumps and they go to the store. Me nuts. Right? And she's like, and I said, honey, they actually make more money from what's in the store than the gas. So actually they don't mind that they do that. But there's funny things that bother each one of us that other people are like, this is what bothers you? And you're like, and this doesn't?
Well, it's those. There's on one of the podcasts I produced, the Try That in a Small Town podcast, and we just added a new feature called "People Are Dipshitidiots," and that's pretty much a lot of Larry David-esque type of things, like exactly what you said. When people park in front of it's not. I get that they're in the store spending money. Uh-huh. It's for the people like say are pulling a trailer.
I get it.
You know what I mean? And it's like, okay, now I can't pump.
But doesn't it all come back to a lot of these things that we're talking about come back to people are me-centric. And they're just like, this doesn't affect me. That's your issue. Move on. Mm-hmm. And there's an exercise I do with clients at the end of the year. And I say, what did you learn about the world? What did you learn about the community, your team? What did you learn about yourself this year? And the thing is that that's really hard questions.
I'm constantly analyzing that for myself.
But because you're self-aware, because you want to do that, but I'm telling you, when you ask
mother, everything was nothing was ever her fault. It was either our fault or somebody else's fault.
See, and that's where therapy comes in. I don't
have a podcast.
See, and I'm like, this may be true, what happens in your past, but I really only look at so let's say it's true. What are you going to do going forward? But when we talk about things like that, I think people don't reflect on what did I learn from the last year? Right. Like, because there's things we learned about ourselves, about I wish I could have done this. And then you have the time to do it and you don't. You're like, I'm not interested in doing that. And I'm like, thank you for being honest with yourself.
Right. Or just, I don't have the kind of fervor I'm just not really bought into the idea. I know it's something I'm like you. I have a ton of ideas. Mm-hmm. I need to do that. I mean, I have a podcast idea that's been sitting on the back burner. We've got 11 episodes of it. It still gets downloads after 4 years of just sitting there. And it's like, I really need to get that going again. Eventually there is a law of diminishing returns when you're starting to take on way too much stuff. Mm-hmm. You could say yes to a lot of things, but the ability to impact that particular project diminishes greatly.
But if there was a motivation where you said, hey, this will make me this will have an impact. The reason we don't do things, and this is the reason I like people to be binary with decisions. I was like, is this something that needs to be done now, near, next, or no? Right? And
nice.
Right. So it's in my book. Right. And the reason I bring this up is because I'm telling you, I finally had to put stuff down that I used to say. And when you put it down, you're like, this is actually really good. And when you search it, you're like, I'm the only one that says this actual thing. I was like, this is a thing. Like, so it's funny when you really have to do that it makes you think. And that's what I do with clients. I was like, Jim, if you and I sat down, and I'm serious as a heart attack, and we took all your ideas, right? And I was like, tell me all your ideas between your business partner's book and why you like that, with the podcast idea, the other things you're doing, put them all down and be like, let's explain why you like any of these ideas. You just explain them like you were trying to pitch me on it. hold on. I'm not done. Now you got to, because I want to see where I'm going with this, because I know you're going to have an answer for this. I know you're going to, but I want everybody else that doesn't know this to hear. And then I want you to go and be like, what would make this deal now, right? And if I didn't do it now, when would I do it? And if I can't define when that happens, am I willing to kill it, right? It's an execution list. And I like execution because it's either I'm going to do it or I'm going to kill it. Execution. So you think about that. And when people have to do that, they're like, oh, I've never done that. Or they've said, I've done it, but I don't know where that list is. So I was like, well, then you really didn't live by it. But if you just do that for any aspect of your life, when you get it out of your head, it is so much clearer. And when you have to slide it across somebody you care and go, here's my list. And they're like, oh, I knew it, but I've never seen it all in one chart before. This is overwhelming. How do you keep this in your brain? You're like, well, would you like a few cocktails? We can talk about it. So guys, what's your response to that concept?
No, I agree with you. I'm seeing like, I have a lot of things that I'm currently pursuing, and a lot of it is balanced of like, okay, I can go home at night and hang out with my wife, and I got plenty of balanced time that way, which is not a bad thing. But you always have the thing in the back of my mind. Is a little bit of this time better spent to one of the projects that I have an idea for or not? Or am I just being lazy? Or am I just being not motivated enough to pursue it? One of the podcasts I produce is a beer podcast, and the joy I get out of it, it's not monetized. We've been doing it a long time, and we're trying to figure out how to get it monetized with sponsorships. But I mean, we can't get the needle to move in terms of audience. But the joy that we're getting out of it is we all get together, we have a ball, it's fun, we have fun conversations. There's really no brain drain when it comes to producing it. So it's like the woman, oh gosh, what was her name? She, does it bring you joy? And if it doesn't, throw it out kind of thing.
Oh, Maria Kondo.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. She's actually in my book. We talk about that too, because we talk about how that's not a new idea, throwing stuff away, but it's a new concept. So let's take your beer idea.
Yeah.
How about on that list? So are you willing to work with me to make your list? I'm serious, because I heard you love a good challenge. I've heard you be challenged on another episode, but let's say we take all your ideas, right? And if you like this, we can even tape it so you can actually show people that you're willing to go through this and make it like a workshop, so to speak, and do it and be like, here's all my ideas. Here's some things. I bet because you have such a broad audience, some people would be like, I didn't know you were doing that. I would totally help you. How about if it's crowdsourced? How about if some of these ideas you give away because you're looking at it going, I don't want this idea. I just want it to live and manifest outside of me. Like, it would be great. How about that beer thing? You just call it a hobby and you go, I don't care if we never monetize it. It gives me so much joy that it offsets I have a crappy day. If I know I'm doing that beer podcast, I'm like, I can smile through a bad situation. Yeah. How about starting to define with each role something plays? So we know the ones that are supposed to be monetized, the ones that are supposed to be joy, and the ones that are supposed to be handed off to somebody else. That's almost like cleaning out your closet so you can make room for new stuff.
True. Yeah, true. Have you done that in film form and film the process?
No, you're my first one. I think about this stuff in real time.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I've done this with clients. I've had them measure their time. When they tell me, I really don't have time and I want to spend more time with my family, or I don't have time to be able to do things. I used to call it, there was executives and early in their career when they got moved up, they felt guilty not being in the office because they were like, hey, I'm supposed to be here. Everybody else has to be here. I need to be able to do it. So I used to call it rest reward. So when they like fantasy football or fantasy baseball, they would want to be able to do that during lunch, but they felt guilty.
Yeah.
So I said, well, what'd you try to accomplish today? And they're like, I got everything done. I was like, that's a reward for what you got done, because there'll always be more work.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a break for yourself doing something you love in that break, you're going to hurt your team and yourself. And when they got that in their head, they were like, okay, I can actually earn the right to be able to take time off, even though they had control of their time. So we did, where we looked at their time, looked at their productivity, looked at a lot of things going on. And I'm not a process guy that tries to make it so processed. I just want you to have data to back up what you're lying to yourself about or what's truth and you have to do something about. I just want it to not be a feeling. I want it to be like a thing. And when it becomes tactile, you can look at it and go, it actually is a thing.
So how'd you feel about doing a podcast this long? We've done an hour and a half.
This is what I do for a living, is I get paid to talk. So
But you do like 30-minute or less episodes, right?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I do an hour and we cut it down to 30, or we make them two episodes. But
you should just let them out there, man.
I should. I'm not afraid. I pronounced somebody's name wrong on one of my early podcasts, ex-CIA agent that was running cyber. And I pronounced her name wrong, and we left it in because it made me seem authentic.
Exactly.
And I was just like, this, you know what?
Yeah.
When you come from the North, there is a lot of posturing to look a certain way, dress a certain way, do a certain thing because there's an expectation. Mm-hmm. Moving to the South allowed me. Plus, it's and I feel like I'm going to live longer just because I'm like, there's no pretension. This is me dressing the way I dress because I feel comfortable. But I didn't try to impress you. This is just who I am.
And so I appreciate that.
But I was like, if people are like, oh, he wore a collared shirt. I was like, I don't know. I can't wear a polo when I do an interview. It's just not who I am. So
if you showed up in a pinstripe suit, I would have totally judged you. This guy's trying too hard.
I don't try hard. So it's your conversation. And Jim, I want to kind of congratulate you on you being who you are and authentic in a world where people try to be seen a certain way. Mm-hmm. And it shows, right? I mean, your episode talking about your mom and your dad, about some other episodes where you talked about other people's problems and stuff and how you work through them. It's not therapy, but it's business with caring. And I think we need more of that. And that was another reason why I wanted to be here, because I was like, it's not just typical. You do what other people don't. And I don't give platitudes. I only say what I mean. So thank you.
Appreciate that. I'm going to have to cut that out and make like a promo out of or something there. Occasionally I get complimented. So everyone can find you at marcawolfe.com.
And that's Mark with a C.
With a C, yes.
And marcawolfe.com, because
Wolfe with an E.
Wolfe with an E. And you can type in but and Marc Wolfe. And if you type in one T, if you type in two T's, you are completely on your own. What you see is not on me.
You got to put are your socials up here? Yeah, they are. Okay, here we are.
Yep, I got an Instagram.
I do real-time analysis of all this stuff.
Yep. People can get a free chapter of the book. They can buy it on Kindle, or they can buy it paperback, hardback, and hopefully audiobook.
It's a 201 area code, still New Jersey?
Yes, it is.
Really?
Yep.
Look at you.
Yep. I couldn't give that up.
I have a 702 area code from Vegas. I couldn't give that up either.
Yeah, the ones with the zeros and the ones, those are the originals. There's just something about it.
Well, awesome, man. It's a great first impression, first meeting, and I look forward to getting to know you even more and making you a regular on the podcast.
Thank you.
Let's talk about even offering the space up for. Are you doing your podcast inside like a studio or at your home?
No, I'm not doing it at home. I have an office in South Nashville, Berry Hill, and we do it there. Just a wood background, and I have clip-on mics. It's off of Armory Drive.
Yeah,
Foster Creighton.
Yeah, I worked off of in the crux of 440 in Nolensville for 9 years at Mix 92.9 and Jack.
Okay, yeah.
Very familiar with that area.
So I have a place there. I use it on clip-on mics and an iPhone, and I record it there, and it works. I mean, I actually do want to do an audiobook, and I want to record it, but I can't work with somebody like you because you'd be like, you got to do that again. I'm like, oh.
No. With my business partner, we've been doing his book. Those of you listening, he's Johnny. He's got a book coming out called There Is No Crisis. And we've been recording the chapters recently, and he'll tell you. But I mean, he's very conscious and deliberate about how he's reading it, which I appreciate. His whole delivery in and of itself is an urgent message delivered in a non-crisis way.
Oh, I love the concept because I think people overreact to a lot. So I'd love to talk to you more about that as well, because that is so business centric, but it's also a take where people, everything's a crisis nowadays.
Oh, totally.
Everybody, and personally and professionally. And we could have a whole other conversation about that. I'd love to talk to you. So this has been great, Jim. This is easy. I can't believe it's an hour and a half. I'm like, okay, where are we going for dinner? I'm like,
I'm going to go home and be lazy. That's what I'm doing for dinner. Well, there you go. Check it out. Marc with a C, a Wolfe with an E.com. Everything's right there. We'll, of course, put the information down in the description and the notes, all that fun stuff. If you want to be on the podcast or you got something out of this particular episode, share it out. Give us a rating. Let somebody know about it. mmtbp.com is the website, if you will. You can also put in mostly Middle Tennessee Business Podcast.com, but I've done you a favor and truncated it down to mmtbp.com and all that fun stuff. Marc, man, what a fun first meeting.
Thank you so much for
Thanks for being on.